Hello, Hossein.
Hi. Hi.
Can you briefly explain the role of hydrogen in energy transition?
Well, as you know, it will have definitely some important role in energy transition. For example, three, four aspects that I could just point out is one, enhancing the energy security and resilience, providing flexibility. It can meet certain industrial applications. It can be used for power generation. It can even be used for heat decarbonization, mobility, all of these aspects. So definitely, I think it can play a central role in this energy transition that we're talking about.
But hydrogen is seen as expensive. So, how do you achieve net zero by 2050 with hydrogen in the center of things?
That's a very good point that you pointed out. Well, although it might be expensive for now potentially, because there are many research and developments going on different hydrogen technologies, especially on green hydrogen production, which are the electrolyzers, and the projections for example, for the future are demonstrating that it will be a decline in the production cost of hydrogen. However, it's not always only about the cost, because we also need to, in order to reach this net zero target, we have also some technical aspects that need to be taken care of. And hydrogen can play a role on that. But for example, what we could mention is that what we do, let's say, we have a techno-economic model that optimizes the future. And in all of the scenarios that we carry out, we can see hydrogen always in there, because it can provide just not only hydrogen, for example, electrolyzers, which produce the green hydrogen. It's not all just about producing that hydrogen. They can also provide balancing services to the power system, for example. And therefore, hydrogen still, it's a kind of a luxury, if we could call it this, a luxury energy carrier that we could mention in order to be produced. But for the future, I think it will be definitely some breakthroughs of technology, because that was also something that already happened in the last 10 years. So it will be further developed, and the cost of production of hydrogen will be reduced, and also the proper infrastructure would be, let's say, there. And for example, using the existing gas infrastructure, that's something that could reduce this, because obviously you need to see the hydrogen value chain, not only the production. So let's say from supply, transport, and demand, and all of these, they are evolving, and lots of companies and governments and the countries are working on. And I think it will definitely be an option for the future, and the cost of that will be decreased.
Can you please compare examples from different countries on what different countries can do, given their respective expertise?
I can, for example, mention for the UK and for the MENA region, for example. For the UK, as you know, they don't have lots of sun, so therefore they don't use many of PVs, and they focus on the wind turbines. And for example, one of the options that is strongly on the agenda in the UK's perspective is to produce green hydrogen from wind and going offshore, because onshore you only can, for example, have 15 gigawatts installed onshore, but offshore it can be more than 100 gigawatts. And one of the impacts is that, okay, what happens if we have electrolyzers offshore, produce green hydrogen there, and then transport hydrogen through the existing gas pipelines which are in North Sea, for example, to the shore, and use that for certain applications. But for example, from the other side, in the MENA region, it's different, because we don't have here that much of wind, so the PV is the center of, let's say, source of production of hydrogen for electrolyzers. And but from the other side, we should also consider that here we have lots of desalination plants for puring the water, which has certain applications, obviously, for drinking, and also for even producing green hydrogen. We need to purify a bit water in order to use it in electrolyzers, and that will, for example, impose lots of challenges, because the desalination water desalination plants require electricity in order to work, and therefore this will also increase the electricity demand in the system in the MENA region, for example, in the UAE. And therefore, by taking all of these components together, we could provide the, let's say, least cost pathway, let's say, while we are meeting all the technical constraints and also meeting the net zero emission. But the cases, there are similarities in terms of the need. Both of these, for example, countries or region require, I mean region, I mean UK, Europe, for example, and MENA region, there's just different countries. They both require hydrogen for their future strategies. That's obvious because even in their governmental strategies that they set up, hydrogen plays a significant role in both of these regions. And it seems to be the green hydrogen production would be the major, although blue hydrogen is also something that, as you know, blue hydrogen comes from steam methane reforming and autothermal reforming, which is from natural gas. But you need to have carbon capture and storage in order to capture that CO2, because obviously, and if you don't have that one, you're still producing emissions. So then what's the point of having that hydrogen? And if we have combination of all of these components which can, let's say, help us to reach the net zero targets, hydrogen is still the center of all of them. Even I mean, it's the same case for UAE and also for Europe. And also another aspect that potentially can link these two regions together is that shipping, for example, ammonia, which ammonia is a combination of hydrogen and nitrogen. The hydrogen can be produced through electrolyzers and then doing this process to produce ammonia and then ship it through vessels, ships, which is a well-known industry in the world, to the, because Europe is always usually the net importer of energy. So that's also something that, I mean, even, for example, even we assume that UAE doesn't need that hydrogen for anything, still for export, it's a very attractive option that they could, let's say, provide service. And the hydrogen can be, or the ammonia can be shipped, for example, to Europe.
And given all this scenario, given all these situations, do you think net zero targets are realistic? Are they actually achievable? And if they're not, what do we need to do today to achieve them?
Well, I think it's achievable because at least from our side, which we do, we have some advanced modeling that we carry out all of these scenarios. From techno-economic perspective, it's doable. But I think what is still lacking and what we need is some appropriate policy, let's say, support for this. Although there are lots of talks and there are many politicians that mention, yes, hydrogen is very good, blah, blah, blah. But still, actually, there's not many appropriate regulatory framework and also legislations to make hydrogen commercially viable. It needs lots of certain, let's say, legislations and also some funds to support this R&Ds in order to do the breakthrough of technology. But still, I think that's something that we're behind, because after 2015, as you know, the COP in Paris, which the different countries signed to do this emission reduction, blah, blah. After that, each year, all the countries are updating their strategies, and hydrogen still mentioned in all of these strategies. But still, we see that actually the action is still not there. And I think definitely one of the main reasons, because we go to lots of meetings, lots of conferences, and we hear from different companies and from different entities that still the policy framework is not really there. And as long as this is there, I think that's doable, because come on, 50, 60 years ago, we sent men to the moon. I mean, from engineering perspective, that's something very easy and obvious that we could do. But the point is that how to reach their cost effective. And of course, if we are talking about money and cost and everything, it requires also the policy support. Otherwise, it shouldn't be doable.
Thank you for talking to us,
Okay,
Hossein.
it was nice to meet you. Thank you.